He made sure no one could hear my mute sister's cries for help, so I made sure no one could hear his either. I learned what real silence sounds like the day my little sister stopped racing home to tell me about her days. She hasn't spoken since the accident when she was 6. Hammered driver, crushed windpipe, 3 surgeries that did jack shit except leave a necklace of scars across her throat. She's 15 now, brilliant and broken in ways that make me want to fight God. I've been playing dad since our actual parents discovered that Xanax and vodka made better companions than their traumatized kids. I work nights at a warehouse, then come home to make Emma breakfast and make sure she catches the bus. She talks with her hands now, carries this hit-up notebook that's more duct tape than paper. When she laughs, it's just air. When she cries, it's silence. But when she plays piano, that's when she screams. Blake walked into our lives like a golden retriever in human form. Student council president, debate champion, the kind of kid whose father owned half the school board and the other half owed him favors. He started tutoring Emma in music theory after school. I thought finally, someone sees her as more than the mute girl. Someone who gets that she's not broken, just different. God, I was stupid. The changes started small. Emma stopped wearing her favorite purple hoodie, said it felt wrong, started showering once before school, twice after. Her hands, usually so expressive when she signed, began trembling mid-conversation. The piano, her voice, her soul, her everything, all sat untouched. When I asked what was wrong, she'd sign tired and disappear into her room. But tired doesn't make you flinch when your brother hugs you. Emma started wrapping herself in layers like armor, long sleeves in 80-degree weather, and wouldn't let anyone sit next to her at dinner. Started having these episodes where she'd just freeze, staring at nothing, hands clutched so tight her knuckles went white. I kept asking Blake how the tutoring was going. Great, he'd say. She's really opening up. The Tuesday that broke everything started normal. I was heading to work early when I heard retching from the bathroom. Found Emma on the floor, with Mom's old sleeping pills scattered like confetti, her whole body shaking. The bottle was still half full. She'd chickened out, thank God. I held her while she sobbed those awful silent sobs and rushed her to the ER doing 90 on side streets. When the nurse asked, "Honey, has someone hurt you?" Emma went rigid like she'd been electrocuted. Then, in that destroyed notebook with shaking hands, she wrote the words that made me see red. Blake locks me in the soundproof music room. He holds me down. He says no one can hear me anyway, so why fight it? The bruises under her sleeves looked like sheet music. 5 finger notes pressed into her upper arms. She wrote how he'd wait until the hallways emptied, how he'd use his student council keys, how he'd whisper that even if she could scream, who'd believe the broken girl over the golden boy? I wanted to hit him until my knuckles broke. Instead, I researched. Blake's family owned a rental house 2 blocks from where he walked home every day, empty between tenants. I spent 2 weeks studying his routine and learned he always cut through the alley behind that house at 4:30, saving 5 minutes on his walk. Same route, same time, like clockwork. I wasn't stupid about it. I bought supplies from different stores across 2 counties. Rope, zip ties, water bottles, bucket. I broke into the basement door, and the storage room down there had concrete walls 3 feet thick. 1 door, no windows, perfect acoustic isolation. He'd appreciate the irony. I didn't care if I got caught. This was about teaching Blake what it meant to scream without sound, while someone stronger decided your fate. The nurse had been honest. The kit found nothing since Blake had only held her down and terrorized her. No DNA, just fading bruises. It would be a mute girl's notebook against the golden boy's testimony, with his father on the school board and family lawyers backing him. The law couldn't help Emma, but I would. Friday, Blake strolled past the house, earbuds in, and I moved fast, chloroform rag in hand. Took 30 seconds that felt like 30 years before he went limp. Dragged his privileged A's through the back door and down to that concrete room. Tied him to a metal folding chair with enough rope to rig a sailboat. When he finally woke up, I leaned in close and told him, no one can hear you anyway, so why fight it? The recognition in his eyes was beautiful. Pure understanding. Pure terror. He spent 48 hours in that darkness, screaming until his throat bled and struggling until the ropes carved grooves in his wrists, all in perfect silence, just like Emma. When I made the anonymous call Monday morning, they found him dehydrated and traumatized, his voice destroyed. He could only whisper about a masked man, but couldn't tell them I'd used his exact words. No one can hear you anyway, so why fight it? Without explaining how he knew them, without admitting he'd said them first to a 15-year-old girl who couldn't scream for help. Blake never returned to school and developed claustrophobia so bad he can't even ride elevators. His family moved to Connecticut, probably telling themselves it was for a fresh start. Emma started playing piano again last month, performed at the winter concert, brought the entire auditorium to tears with a composition she wrote called Finding My Voice. Everything was perfect until I came home from work last night. Emma slid her notebook across the breakfast table. Her handwriting was different, urgent. People at school keep saying your name when they talk about Blake. They stare at me. She looked up at me, and for the first time since that Tuesday in the bathroom, I saw real fear in her eyes. Then she wrote one more line. They know. My phone buzzed again. 3 more texts from my warehouse buddies. I ignored them and focused on Emma's face. Her eyes darted between me and the notebook, waiting for my response. I grabbed the pen and wrote back, who's saying what exactly? Emma's hands moved quickly in sign language before she wrote, Blake's dad hired someone, a private investigator. Jenna's mom told her mom who told Jenna who told me. The kitchen suddenly felt too small. I stood up, pacing to the window. Outside, our neighbor Mrs. Chen was watering her garden like any other morning. Everything looked normal, but nothing felt normal anymore. Emma tapped the table to get my attention. She'd written more. Mr. Rodriguez asked about your work schedule schedule yesterday. Said someone came to the warehouse asking questions. My supervisor, the same guy who'd covered for me when I needed time off for Emma's therapy appointments. My stomach twisted into knots. I needed to get to work, needed to act normal, but my hands wouldn't stop shaking. I called the warehouse, trying to keep my voice steady. The words came out cracked and wrong. Hey, it's me. I'm not feeling great today. Think I'm coming down with something. Rodriguez's voice came through concerned. You sure you're okay? You sound different. Look, someone was here a couple weeks back asking about your hours. Said it was for employment verification, but something felt off about it. 2 weeks ago, while I was planning everything, Blake's family was already moving pieces on the board. After hanging up, I saw Emma had written something else. School counselor called. She wants to meet about concerning rumors. But my recital is tonight. The recital. Emma's first performance since everything happened. She'd been practicing for months, working through her trauma one note at a time. I couldn't miss it. But ignoring the counselor meant documenting negligence. I wrote back, we're going to your recital. You've worked too hard. Emma's face crumpled with relief, then immediately tensed again. She signed rapidly, then wrote, Blake used to come to all my recitals. The decision felt heavier now, but I'd made it. Emma needed this performance. She needed to reclaim her music. That evening, we arrived at the school auditorium early. Emma wore her new blue dress, the one she'd picked out herself last week. Her hands trembled slightly as she warmed up backstage. I found a seat in the middle section, trying to blend in with the other families. Then I saw him, a man in a gray suit, standing near the side exit, holding a small camera. He wasn't trying to hide it, just positioned like any proud parent recording their kid. But his lens kept drifting toward me. The lights dimmed. Emma walked onto the stage, and for a moment, everything else faded. She sat at the piano, took a deep breath, and began to play. 3 measures in, she stopped. Her whole body went rigid. I followed her gaze to the man in the gray suit. He'd moved closer, and in the stage lights I could see his face clearly. He looked like Blake. Same jaw structure, same cold eyes. Emma's hands hovered over the keys, frozen. Parents started whispering. I stood up, moving toward the stage, but that meant walking right past the investigator. He raised his camera. I reached Emma just as she started hyperventilating, helped her off the stage while whispers rippled through the audience. In the hallway, she signed frantically. He looks like Blake's uncle, the one from the holiday concert. We made it to the parking lot before I spotted her. Blake's mother, standing by a silver Mercedes, watching us with calculated sympathy. She started walking over. I heard about the recital, she said, voice dripping with false concern. I just wanted to support Emma's recovery. Music is so healing, isn't it? Other parents were watching now, seeing Blake's mother extend kindness to the family that had wronged her son. Emma pressed against my side, signing something I couldn't catch in the dark. We need to go, I said. Blake's mother stepped closer. Of course, but perhaps we should talk soon about what's best for Emma. Back at the car, I found the business card tucked under my windshield wiper. Marcus Investigations, with a Connecticut number handwritten on the back. Blake's new number. Below it, let's talk before the police do. I grabbed the card, crumpling it in my fist. Across the parking lot, a parent had their phone out, recording. By tomorrow, the community Facebook page would have a video of me aggressively reacting to a simple business card at a children's event. Emma's hands moved in the darkness as we drove home. Everyone saw me freeze. They think I'm broken. I pulled over, turning on the interior light so she could see me sign back. You're not broken. You're healing. There's a difference. But even as I signed it, I knew the damage was done. 3 separate crises in one night. The investigator documenting us, Emma's public breakdown, and my boss's text waiting on my phone about discussing my recent absences. The next morning brought fresh hell. An email from the school requiring Blake's written assessment from when he tutored Emma. Something about validating her advanced placement. They needed it within 48 hours, and it had to come through his family lawyer. I watched Emma at breakfast, saw how I hovered over her like I had after Dad's first OD. She caught me staring and signed, "You're scaring me like before." When I'd sleep outside her door, when I'd check on her every hour, when my protection became another prison. My phone lit up with a WhatsApp notification. Blake's mother had joined the school parent group. Her first message, "I'm deeply concerned for all our children's safety during these troubling times. We must support each other." 43 likes in 10 minutes. I needed Emma's medical records from the hospital visit, needed documentation of everything. But when I called, the receptionist's voice turned cold. "I'll need to verify your authorization. We've had a report of someone showing unusual interest in a minor's private information." After hanging up, I discovered another problem. Emma's piano competition recordings, the ones that showed her progression, her growth, her healing, were all stored on the cloud account Blake had set up for their lessons. His family still had access. The email came that afternoon. "We're happy to discuss transferring the recordings once we've had a conversation about what really happened." They were holding her music hostage. I hadn't slept in 2 days. The exhaustion made me sloppy. I scheduled Emma's therapy appointment right over my work shift. Realized it too late. Missed both. Another mark against me. Another documented failure. That evening, Marcus showed up at my door. We'd grown up together, played Little League, shared our first beers. Now he wore a badge and a careful expression. "You need to stop whatever you're doing," he said. "My wife won't let our kids play with Emma anymore. Other parents are talking." "Talking about what?" Marcus shifted uncomfortably. "About how you've been acting. About Blake. About that basement they found him in. Look, I'm not here officially. I'm here because we were friends. But you need to stop." After he left, I understood. I'd been naive thinking this would end with Blake's departure. His family had resources I couldn't match. They were building a case, not for criminal court, but for something worse. Custody. School pickup became a gauntlet. Parents who used to wave now crossed the parking lot to avoid us. Mrs. Patterson, who'd brought Emma cookies after the accident, pretended not to see us. Then Blake's mother played her next card. An old Instagram story from 3 weeks ago surfaced, reshared scared by her. Blake wearing a neck brace. Timestamp showing exactly when I would have been on break at the warehouse. The implications clear without saying anything actionable. My girlfriend Sarah called that night. Blake's father offered me a job, marketing director at his company. The pay it's life-changing money. You're not considering it. Silence. Then, he just wants to know about Emma, how she's doing, if she's getting the support she needs. Sarah, I haven't said yes, but I haven't said no either. The call ended with nothing resolved. Another ally wavering. I'd been so focused on protecting Emma from Blake that I'd documented my own obsession. My browser history showed months of research into Blake's schedule, his habits, his routines, preparation that looked like premeditation from the wrong angle. At Emma's school concert last month, when she finally played again, I'd cried, exhausted, relieved. I'd celebrated like we'd won something. The other parents saw a man who didn't understand the gravity of assaulting a minor. They saw someone unhinged. The cease and desist letter arrived on a Thursday. Blake's family attorney laid it out clearly. Stop the harassment, stop the stalking, stop the defamation, or face legal consequences. The subtext was clearer. We're going to take Emma away from you. Two families locked in a battle where only one could survive intact. They had money, connections, and sympathy. I had the truth, but truth doesn't pay lawyers or change public perception. Emma found me reading the letter at the kitchen table. She signed, "What happens now?" I looked at my little sister, this brilliant girl who'd survived so much, and realized I was about to put her through another war. One fought in courtrooms and custody evaluations instead of soundproof rooms. But what choice did I have? Blake's family had made their move. The investigator, the documentation, the public sympathy campaign, it all pointed to one goal, proving I was an unfit guardian. I signed back, "Now we fight." Emma nodded, but her eyes held the same fear from that morning. She knew what I was just beginning to understand. Sometimes the person trying to save you can become another kind of trap. The battle lines were drawn. Blake's family had every advantage except one. They'd never seen Emma play piano with tears streaming down her face, pushing through pain to find her voice again. They didn't know what we'd survived before Blake ever entered our lives. They thought they were fighting a warehouse worker with anger issues. They were fighting a brother who'd raised himself and his sister from ashes. The war for Emma's future had begun. Blake's mother started showing up everywhere. The grocery store, the gas station, even the laundromat where Emma and I did our weekly loads. She'd smile and wave, making small talk with other customers about her concern for troubled families. Each encounter felt choreographed, designed for witnesses. I discovered her new strategy when my boss pulled me aside during my shift. He explained that a lovely woman had approached him at the coffee shop, mentioning she knew one of his employees. She'd quoted Emma's favorite movie without realizing it, something about finding your voice when the world goes silent. My boss thought she seemed genuine, even charming. They'd exchanged numbers. The next week, I saw them together at lunch. She touched his arm when she laughed, leaned in when he spoke. My supervisor, divorced and lonely, glowed under her attention. She asked casual questions about his work, his employees, their schedules. He answered without thinking twice. Emma noticed the changes too. She wrote in her notebook about seeing Blake's mother's car parked outside the school during her piano practice. The woman would sit in the parking lot, just watching, just waiting. Legal, but unsettling. I ran into Blake's mother at the grocery store. She cornered me near the produce section, speaking loudly enough for others to hear her concern about Emma's well-being. I tried to move past her, but she blocked my path with her cart. When I finally pushed through, she stumbled dramatically. 3 shoppers saw me shove a concerned woman just trying to help. Later, I'd swear she'd grabbed my arm first. She'd insist I'd been aggressive from the start. 2 completely different versions of the same moment, both of us certain we were telling the truth. My phone kept buzzing with old text messages I'd forgotten about. Screenshots started circulating in the parent WhatsApp group, messages from months ago where I'd thanked Blake for his patience with Emma, for staying late to help her with difficult pieces, for being such a positive influence. My own words, weaponized against me. Emma's elderly piano teacher, Mrs. Chen, mentioned something strange during Emma's lesson. She said that nice Blake boy had asked about Emma weeks before the incident. He'd wanted to know if Emma seemed happy, if she was eating well, if I was taking good care of her. Mrs. Chen thought it was sweet how concerned he was. She mentioned he'd known I was sick that Tuesday, the day I'd actually been at work. The implications chilled me. Blake had been building a narrative long before I'd noticed anything wrong. Our Ring doorbell footage became evidence, but not in the way I'd hoped. The video from 2 months ago showed me grabbing Blake's arm when he dropped Emma off late. Out of context, it looked aggressive. In context, I'd been upset he'd kept her out past dark without calling, but context didn't matter in carefully edited clips. I tried explaining everything to Child Protective Services when they made their first visit. The social worker took notes, nodded sympathetically, but I could see the calculation in her eyes. My accusations against Blake sounded like deflection. My protective behavior looked controlling. My research into Blake's routines seemed obsessive. Emma had been using the same password for everything since her accident, the date of her first recital after recovery. I knew it by heart, had helped her set up her accounts. When I discovered Blake still had access to her music theory portfolio, I used that password to lock him out. But the browser's autofill showed me something that stopped my heart. Emma's last search, how to make it stop. Blake's mother's Facebook posts gained traction. She wrote about praying for disturbed individuals who lashed out instead of seeking help. She shared articles about false accusations, about mental health resources, about forgiveness. Community members shared her posts, adding prayer hands emojis, not realizing they were publicly taking sides against us. My work-mandated therapy sessions sessions after the incident became another weapon. The therapist had asked about my feelings toward Blake, about my fantasies of justice. I'd been honest about my anger, about imagining confronting him. Now those sessions were being subpoenaed, my words twisted into evidence of violent tendencies. I tried recording a phone call with Blake's lawyer, hoping to catch them in a lie, but they spotted the recording notification immediately. The lawyer's tone changed, became formal and concerned. They asked if I was recording, expressed worry about my mental state, suggested I needed help. The call ended with them documenting my paranoid behavior. Emma's therapy appointment fell at 3:30 p.m., right when school let out. I had to ask someone to pick her up. With Sarah wavering and other parents avoiding us, I had no choice but to ask Blake's mother. She agreed immediately, too eagerly. Emma came home smelling like expensive perfume and wouldn't tell me what they'd talked about during the drive. The warehouse started feeling different. Conversations stopped when I walked by. My supervisor became distant, formal. Then Blake's father filed a complaint about the company employing unstable individuals around heavy machinery. The night manager, who had alimony payments and couldn't afford to lose his job, chose security over friendship. I started noticing Blake's mother driving past our old house, the one that went on the market after Mom's last relapse. She'd park outside sometimes, just sitting there. Once, I caught a whiff of familiar cologne at school pickup. Dad's cologne, the bottle he'd left behind. Emma recognized it too, her whole body tensing. Blake's family made an offer through their lawyer. Drop the accusations, accept supervised visitation only, admit to mental health struggles, and they'd drop potential charges. The alternative was a full custody battle I couldn't afford. I refused. The next day, local news blogs picked up the story of a family trying to help a troubled man accept responsibility for his actions. My refusal got spun into putting pride before Emma's needs. Everything shifted when I realized I'd been wrong about a crucial detail. The music room door I remembered Blake using, the one with the lock, that wasn't right. Security footage from the school showed him using a different door entirely, one without a lock. My certainty crumbled. Emma had been recording voice memos on the old iPod I'd given her after the accident. She'd hidden it in the piano bench, documenting everything. But when we finally found it, the recordings weren't what I'd expected. Mixed between evidence of Blake's behavior were recordings of him genuinely helping her with college applications, discussing her future, encouraging her dreams. Our aunt faced an impossible choice. Supporting me meant risking her own grandparent visitation rights with her kids. Her ex had made it clear, associate with the unstable brother, lose access to her children. She chose them, but slipped cash into Emma's backpack when no one was looking. Family torn apart by circumstances beyond our control. I started learning Blake's tactics. The private investigator had an assistant, young and underpaid. I struck up conversations at the coffee shop where she grabbed lunch, sympathized about demanding bosses, shared stories about protecting family. Slowly, carefully, I gathered information about their investigation. Blake's mother had a standing prescription for anxiety medication, picked up monthly at the same pharmacy where Emma got her prescriptions. I started timing our visits to overlap, casual conversations in the waiting area, discussing Emma's progress, her resilience, her needs, fishing for information while seeming concerned. The shared insurance portal had a flaw. Family accounts could access therapy notes if they knew where to look. I downloaded Emma's session notes before Blake's family realized the loophole. The notes revealed more than I'd expected about Emma's state of mind, about her fears, about her guilt. Then Mom's ex-boyfriend surfaced, the one who'd tried to claim paternal rights before Emma's accident. He'd heard about the instability, saw an opportunity. Another party entering the custody fight, another threat to navigate. Fighting on multiple fronts meant making mistakes. I missed Emma's IEP meeting while dealing with lawyers. The school documented it as parental negligence, another mark against me in official records. Legal fees drained my savings account. Credit cards maxed out. Blake's family had unlimited resources, filing motion after motion, scheduling hearing after hearing. They could afford to wait. I couldn't. The confrontation at Emma's favorite ice cream shop happened by accident. Blake's mother was there with his younger brother. Emma saw them first, froze completely. I tried to leave, but Blake's brother recognized Emma, called out to her. The teenage employees, who'd known Emma since she was little, watched in horror as the situation escalated. Blake's mother spoke loudly about forgiveness, about moving forward, while Emma signed frantically and other customers stared. My job couldn't survive the drama. Between the investigation, the legal meetings, and the complaints, I'd become a liability. The termination letter cited excessive personal issues creating unsafe work conditions. My replacement started the next week. Blake's cousin, fresh out of college, eager to prove himself. Without income, I couldn't keep the apartment. Emma stayed with friends while I slept in my car, parked outside their houses like a guardian ghost. Blake's mother posted photos from our old neighborhood, standing in front of the house where Emma learned to ride her bike. Mom showed up at my car one night. She'd been sober for 3 weeks, the longest stretch in years. She begged me to stop the war, insisted Emma needed peace, not more conflict. Her hands shook as she spoke, but her eyes were clear. The investigation had forced her to confront what she'd abandoned. My investigation into Blake's behavior had unintended casualties. Emma's sign language interpreter got suspended after someone reported her for inappropriate involvement with our family. Her daughter asked why she was crying at pickup. Her husband threatened divorce if she continued helping us. I kept pushing forward, gathering evidence despite the crumbling support system. Each victory felt hollow when I saw Emma's circle of safety shrinking. Sarah finally asked the question I'd been dreading. Sitting in my car, she looked at me with genuine confusion and asked what if Blake really had been trying to help? What if I'd misunderstood everything? I couldn't answer immediately, the doubt creeping in like poison. To maintain any credibility, I had to admit to behaviors that looked damaging. Yes, I'd stalked Blake's social media. Yes, I'd tracked his routines. Yes, I'd planned for weeks. Each admission meant accepting a label I'd never wanted. Obsessed, unstable, dangerous. The worst revelation came from evidence I'd missed. While I was dealing with Dad's old dealer, trying to keep him away from the house, Emma had been showing signs I'd ignored. I'd been so focused on external threats that I'd missed the danger already inside our lives. The timeline proved it. I'd failed her before Blake ever appeared. Blake's family's lawyer filed for emergency custody transfer, while my lawyer was at his mother's funeral. The timing felt deliberate, calculated. The hearing got moved up, leaving me scrambling for representation. During the guardian ad litem meeting, Blake's mother revealed something that reframed everything. She genuinely loved Emma like the daughter she never had. Years of tutoring had created real affection mixed with dangerous entitlement. She believed, truly believed, she'd be a better guardian. Her tears over Emma's baby photos were real, so were mine. The financial destruction felt systematic. Savings gone, credit destroyed, promises to Emma about college broken. Each dollar spent on lawyers was a dollar stolen from her future. I watched myself transform from protective brother to calculating strategist, losing pieces of who Emma had loved. The evidence I needed came from an ugly source. Blake's 12-year-old brother played the same online games as Emma. I created a fake profile, befriended him, listened to his innocent chatter about family dynamics. Using a child's trust felt wrong, but I was past caring about right and wrong. Small victories felt hollow. Winning emotion while watching Blake's mother cry genuine tears. Proving a point while destroying relationships. Each legal maneuver cost more than money. Blake's family filed a counterclaim for defamation and emotional distress. Their son's trauma was real, even if his actions had caused it. The judge took their claims seriously. Everything hinged on testimony from Mom's ex-boyfriend about why he'd really left all those years ago. My past kindness became leverage against me. Blake's brother remembered me from Emma's recitals, remembered when I'd helped him with his math homework, bought him ice cream. Now I was the enemy, and he couldn't understand why I was being mean to his family. The warehouse workers chose sides based on survival. Blake's father offered employment to those who supported his version of events. Others stayed quiet, afraid of involvement. The community fractured along economic lines. Family court operated differently than I'd expected. Criminal standards didn't apply. Believing wasn't enough for emergency custody. The burden of proof felt impossible when facing skilled lawyers and unlimited resources. Mom's old dealer owed me a debt from when I'd helped his kid get into rehab instead of jail. He agreed to testify about our family's timeline, about when Mom's addiction started, about why I'd been at his place those nights Emma needed me, but he wouldn't risk full exposure of his operation. Partial truth felt worse than lies. Emma's sacrifice reframed everything. Hidden in her therapy notes was the revelation that she'd known Blake was escalating. She'd stayed silent to protect me from doing something reckless. She'd endured abuse because she knew I'd snap if I found out. My little sister had been protecting me while I thought I was protecting her. The iPod recordings became crucial evidence. Hours of audio showing Blake's progression from mentor to predator. Emma had documented everything, creating an archive of her own deterioration. Listening to her fear, hearing the timestamps, understanding she'd spent weeks in constant terror while recording it all, broke something inside me. Justice meant accepting hard truths. Emma had chosen to endure abuse to prevent me from becoming a killer. She'd sacrificed herself to save my soul. Honoring her choice meant pursuing legal remedies instead of the violence I'd craved. Blake's overconfidence became his weakness. During a deposition about the music room, he contradicted himself about the soundproofing. His detailed knowledge of the room's acoustic properties proved he'd chosen it deliberately. The sworn testimony revealed his awareness of the isolation. I presented evidence without satisfaction, maintaining dignity, while Blake realized his mother couldn't save him from his own words. The pattern of grooming and isolation became undeniable. Legal momentum shifted, but at devastating cost. All parties prepared for the final custody hearing that would determine Emma's future. Two broken families, multiple interventions, a community divided, and a little girl who just wanted to play piano without fear. The war had casualties on all sides, but the battle wasn't over. The testimony revealed everything. Emma's recordings captured Blake's escalating behavior over weeks, each session more disturbing than the last. The family court judge listened to hours of evidence, her expression growing grimmer with each revelation. Blake's mother sat rigid in her chair, watching her son's reputation crumble through his own documented actions. Emma had recorded Blake explaining why the music room was perfect, how the soundproofing meant no one would interrupt their special sessions. His voice on the recordings grew more possessive, more entitled, describing Emma as his silent muse, who understood him better than anyone. The progression from mentor to predator unfolded in his own words. Blake contradicted himself repeatedly during questioning. First, he claimed he'd never been alone with Emma in the music room. Then, the recordings proved otherwise. He insisted the door didn't lock, but Emma's audio captured the distinct click of the bolt sliding home. His detailed knowledge of the room's acoustic properties, meant to isolate sound completely, became damning evidence of premeditation. The guardian ad litem's report devastated both families. She documented Emma's trauma, my obsessive protection, Blake's mother's genuine but misguided affection, and the community's fractured response. Her recommendation acknowledged that while I'd made serious errors in judgment, removing Emma from my care would cause additional trauma. She proposed intensive supervision and mandatory therapy for everyone involved. Blake's breakdown during his psychological evaluation reaction shocked even his mother. He genuinely believed Emma had wanted his attention, that her silence meant consent, that he was helping her find her voice through their private sessions. The evaluator's report detailed his complete inability to recognize Emma's fear or understand why she'd recorded their interactions. His delusions ran deeper than anyone had realized. Mom's ex-boyfriend's testimony backfired spectacularly. He'd hoped to gain custody by highlighting our family's instability, but under questioning, he revealed why he'd really left years ago, not because of Mom's addiction, but because I'd threatened him after catching him in Emma's room one night when she was 7. His attempt to paint me as violent instead proved I'd been protecting Emma long before Blake appeared. The judge ordered immediate protective measures. Blake would have no contact with Emma, direct or indirect. His family couldn't approach within 500 feet of our home, Emma's school, or any location where she had regular activities. The order included provisions preventing them from using third parties to gather information or make contact. Blake's mother wept as the restrictions were read, finally understanding she'd lost any chance of a relationship with Emma. Blake's psychological evaluation mandated intensive treatment. The court required him to complete a comprehensive program addressing his distorted thinking patterns, boundary violations, and inability to recognize consent. His mother fought against the ruling initially, insisting her son just needed understanding, but the judge's decision stood firm. Treatment wasn't optional. It was court-ordered with regular progress reports required. The warehouse hired me back after Blake's father withdrew his complaints. My co-workers had seen through the manipulation, understood the pressure I'd faced. Rodriguez apologized for his distance, admitting Blake's mother had confused him with her apparent sincerity. The night shift welcomed me back quietly, without fanfare, just nods of understanding and resumed normalcy. Emma's support system slowly rebuilt. Her sign language interpreter returned after the suspension lifted, her husband finally understanding the family's situation. Parents who distanced themselves began tentative approaches, some apologizing for their quick judgment, others simply resuming casual greetings. The community's division left permanent scars, but daily life gradually resumed its rhythm. Sarah ended things definitively after the hearing. She couldn't reconcile the person she'd known with the actions I'd taken, even understanding my motivations. Her departure felt inevitable, another casualty of choices made in desperation. She took the marketing position with a different company, needing distance from the entire situation. Mom maintained her sobriety through the crisis, the longest stretch in years. She attended meetings daily, worked with a sponsor, began the slow process of rebuilding trust. The court allowed supervised visits with Emma, brief sessions that grew longer as Mom proved her commitment. Emma remained cautious, but allowed tentative connection. Their relationship forever altered, but not entirely severed. The financial damage took months to address. Credit counseling, payment plans, careful budgeting to restore stability. Emma's college fund remained depleted, but we started rebuilding slowly, dollar by dollar. She understood the sacrifice, never complained about the limitations, focused instead on her music and recovery. Blake's family moved back to Connecticut permanently after the ruling. Their house sold quickly, their presence in our community ending as abruptly as it had exploded. Blake's younger brother sent Emma one last message through a mutual friend, saying he missed their game sessions, but understood why they couldn't continue. The innocence in his confusion highlighted the tragedy's reach beyond the primary players. Emma returned to performing gradually. Small venues first, school events where she felt safe. Her compositions grew more complex, processing trauma through melody and rhythm. The piano became her voice again, but now her music carried a different weight. Not just expression, but survival. Not just art, but testimony. The mandatory therapy sessions revealed patterns I'd missed. My hypervigilance after Dad's OD, my need to control Emma's environment, my inability to trust others with her safety. The therapist worked with both of us on establishing healthier boundaries, recognizing the difference between protection and imprisonment. Progress came slowly, measured in small victories and occasional setbacks. Emma's new composition premiered at the state championship. She titled it Silent No More, a complex piece that moved between darkness and light, fear and hope, silence and sound. Her hands flew across the keys with newfound confidence, each note a declaration of survival. The audience responded with stunned silence followed by thunderous applause. Blake served his probation in Connecticut, mandatory treatment sessions twice weekly. Reports filtered back through legal channels. His progress remained slow, his inability to fully accept responsibility a continuing challenge. His mother attended her own therapy, grappling with enabling behaviors and misplaced loyalty. Their family's prominence couldn't shield them from consequences. The school implemented new policies after our case. Background checks for all tutors, mandatory supervision for one-on-one sessions, regular check-ins with students receiving individual instruction. Emma's experience catalyzed changes that would protect future students, though she found little comfort in being the catalyst for reform. Our apartment felt different with stability returning. Emma decorated her room again, hanging new posters, displaying her composition awards. She started inviting friends over, tentative social connections rebuilding. I learned to give her space, to trust her judgment, to let her heal at her own pace without hovering constantly. The community center offered Emma a position teaching beginning piano to younger students. She accepted hesitantly, working with kids who reminded her of herself before everything changed. Teaching them to find their voice through music became part of her own healing process. Parents trusted her with their children, a vote of confidence that many meant everything. 6 months after the hearing, life settled into new patterns. Morning routines without panic, school days without dread, evenings without constant vigilance. Emma performed her state championship piece, the auditorium packed with supporters who'd stood by us through everything. Her music filled the space with hard-won triumph, each note a testament to survival and resilience. Mom watched from the back row, tears streaming down her face, finally present for her daughter's moment. Blake remained in Connecticut, his treatment ongoing, his future uncertain. The war had ended not with destruction, but with difficult peace, scars that would fade but never fully disappear, and 2 siblings who'd learned that protection sometimes means letting go. Emma's hands stilled on the final note, the sound hanging in the air like a prayer answered, and I knew we'd found our way through to something resembling hope.